Hey there, it's Angela, and I'm so glad you found your way here to architecting. Creative careers can be stressful, and it's hard to be vulnerable, but this is your landing pad for raw honesty. I'll help you get clarity, reconnect with your passion, and have the career of your dreams. If you're ready to make a difference, have an impact, and say bye-bye to burnout, stick with me, and let's get architecting. Hey Bright Lights, it's Angela and welcome back to Architecting. If you are part of our community, if you are new, we're so glad you're here. This is really your landing pad for being honest about what is blocking your creative potential, including things you might not have thought about, like the lids that we put on ourselves. And because I'm always thinking about you that way, I thought we'd have a little bit of fun with this idea of summer break, which often is more like a breaking point. So today I am going to talk all about how to have a truly restorative summer, replenish your resilience reserve, and be more creative, have more fun, while you do all your work instead of feeling burned out. So if you want to join me on the Summer Breaking Points Challenge, all you have to do is share one insight that you got from listening to this episode with me on Instagram. You can tag me at Architecting Podcast, and you will be entered to win cool prizes. First prize is that you get an hour coaching session directly with me. So there'll be one big winner who gets that, but then I'm going to be giving out 3 free access passes to my Stressless Success course. And I have changed the format so that it is on demand. So if you are a winner of this, you will get the access information and be able to log on and start your class right away and take it at your own pace. If you want to be in the running for any of those really cool prizes, enter my Summer Breaking Points Challenge by sharing your insight from this episode and tagging me at Architecting Podcast. So let's get to this amazing episode. I have taken a few weeks off from podcasting because I've had a lot of other stuff going on. And the last week, our offices were closed for summer break, which is something that at GVB on Architecture we started last year. But it's the idea that you don't have to take vacation time, but you can have time where you know you're not missing something. So you can take a vacation, you can do a staycation, you can recharge, you can try to catch up with life management. If you're like me, you took a lot of naps and binge watched some good shows and just had a chance to sort of chill out, not have to be in do mode. One of the toughest things about modern life is that there is no longer any separation between your personal life and your work life. I talk a lot about work-life integration, not balance, because we can't silo these things at all anymore. We are constantly getting notifications, being pinged throughout the day. How much more difficult have you noticed it's become to have that quiet, focused time? With the advent of Zoom and other platforms for online meetings, and the fact that more people are working from home, we end up with a meeting being the only way we can have even casual conversations with a team member. So our day gets interrupted with these constant pings. And it's funny, I came across in my Instagram feed yesterday a graphic that I shared that said, you can still burn out doing what you love. And I shared it to my stories and had a colleague write back to me and say, 100%. It's a real challenge. So I thought that I would focus this episode on what I'm calling summer breaking points. Our resilience reservoir is getting worn down gradually every day. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. We don't have a whole lot left in the tank, and even taking time off doesn't always do it. If you can relate to this idea of feeling just a little toasty these days, and that trying to take a personal day or a vacation is still not bringing you back, we're going to talk about building up your resilience ROI. The first thing I want to do is touch a little bit on what burnout is and isn't. And if you want to go in much more depth on this topic, I did a whole episode on burnout that I will link to in the show notes called The Dirty Little Secrets of Burnout, where I talk specifically about what causes burnout. But the main thing I want to say today is burnout is not stress-driven. We think it is a lot of the time, that if we've been under a lot of stress, we feel burned out. And that's why we think that if we take a break from things that stress us out, that we won't feel burned out anymore. But that, in fact, is not true. Burnout happens when we feel that we've lost our passion, lost our mojo, that zest for life, that energy, that curiosity, that motivation for things that we love just seems not quite there. That can happen when we feel overwhelmed. We just don't have the resources that we need to do what we need to do. So it takes more effort than it should, which takes the fun and enjoyment out of it. We get caught up in the mundane chore-like tasks because there's too many of those. We don't feel that our efforts are appreciated or making a difference in some way. So it feels like we've lost the meaning in what we're doing. Probably can say yes to at least a couple of these, right? So how do we get on the other side of that? My favorite quote about creativity, which is simply, if you know it will work, it isn't creative. When we do what we know works, even if it started off as a creative solution that worked at one time, when we reapply it, it is functionally no longer creative. Creativity is generative. Creativity is about taking risks and embracing the unknown, and it is a lot of fun. But we can't have that fun if we are too tied down by obligation, by lack of support, or lack of resources. Those are the things that inhibit our ability to be creative. Those are the things that lead ultimately to burnout. Now, it doesn't mean that all day, every day, you get to play in the sandbox and you never have to do anything you don't like to do. But it does mean that you do need to make sure that you are doing things that feed your creativity. Sparking creativity isn't just about setting aside time. It is about being inspired. And how do you get inspired? By not doing the same old stuff, by giving yourself interesting experiences, adventures, new encounters, by being playful, by having fun, i.e., not nose to the grindstone. That never results in creativity because all it does is drain your energy, not give you more. Things that feed your creativity energize you. The mind at play can be curious. The mind at play can have an experience that can then begin to see opportunities of the adjacent possible of how that experience could solve another problem. Which is why if you feel like you're efforting too much, meet a friend for lunch and take a long lunch, or go see a movie or go to a museum, and you're thinking, I have so much to do that I don't have time for that. But the truth is, getting these different kinds of rest for your brain around a problem you're trying to solve gives you the opportunity to refresh, to reset, to be, in effect, more resilient. So in my work as a healthcare architect, I talk specifically about resilience being an equity issue. When we do not have the resources we need, and those resources can be a lot of different things. They can be environmental factors, they can be social factors, they can be economic factors, they can be psychological factors, like how safe we feel in our workplace, how much agency we get, how many other demands there are in our time. If we have more resources, we have more resiliency. We feel more comfortable taking risks and playing a little bit, asking what if, asking why not, how can I? Those are the things that lead to creativity. Those are the things that keep you resonating around the things you love. Just like in a relationship, if you were to take the other person for granted and never spend quality time with them, or have adventures together, or do thoughtful things for one another, or have good conversation, your relationship would burn out and get stale, perhaps even ending, or at the very least being very unsatisfying. And the same goes with your work. If you aren't putting quality time in, if you're just working hard, but not working smart, if you're never making creativity a priority, if you are exhausting yourself on the compulsory part of your job and you don't have the time for the freestyle, of course you're going to get burned out. You are essentially bleeding off your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy. And it can be a slow leak, but a slow leak over time adds up. And in fact, it's often those smaller leaks, those small t traumas that make us afraid to take chances, when our ideas got shut down, when we didn't feel like we could ask for the opportunities we wanted, when we were unfairly criticized. Those little things can actually be much more damaging than the big, bad catastrophe kind of things, because those we see as a problem. Those we are forced to take action because we can't ignore them. But these little cuts are the ones that we say, it doesn't really matter. I can just work harder, or I'll just redo it, or I'll wait till later. And we minimize how important these things really are, or what it meant to not get that opportunity. Little by little, it depletes our resilience reservoir, but in such small increments that we don't notice until that reservoir gets dangerously low. And then we're in burnout mode. Burnout mode where we feel like everything we do is in service to what other people need, but that our own needs are never getting met. Burnout in the sense that we don't feel engaged or motivated or inspired any longer. We are at a time on this planet when creativity is your number one resource. I really want you to understand this because it is so very important. the work we do as architects profoundly impacts people. We are creating environments in which they have to operate. You wouldn't pour poison in the fishbowl and expect the fish to live. We are creating environments that can either enrich people or further deplete their resources. We need our own resources to be absolutely ready. Creativity is generative. We are called to be creative, to be fascinated by life. We want to see what's different, want to see what's interesting and delightful and unusual. Being different, doing it different, seeing it different. And finally, we need to solve problems that people may not even be able to articulate for us. And since creativity is generative, it means we can't do it from a place of lack. We have to have the energy to be motivated, to explore, to transform, and to see combinations of things and relationships among things that have never been seen before. Just hearing me talk about this, doesn't it kind of shift your energy, make you go, yeah, I like to do that. I want to do that. I know that feeling when I am in that creative zone. And that doesn't feel like burnout. That doesn't feel like hard work or struggle. It feels like fun. That feels light. That feels playful. It's when I'm on a roll and I don't want to stop. So it's the opposite of burnout. But if we aren't taking care of ourselves, if we aren't feeding and nurturing ourselves, there isn't a place for creativity. We're too exhausted, too apathetic, or too afraid to do any of that exploratory, transformational, or combinational kind of stuff. So we default to what we know works, and we don't feel inspired by it, and we still have to put a lot of effort into making it happen. But that effort isn't energizing, it's depleting. Or we feel like we have to compete and we're putting our energy there, not feeding our creativity. It's coming from a place of fear of being found lacking, fear of missing out on something, fear of not belonging. But again, it's taking us out of that creative energy mode. So if you do feel like you have lost connection with what you love about being an architect, what you love about your creative career, if it all just seems like same old, another day, another set of adversities to deal with instead of challenges or opportunities, please try these solutions to recharge your resilience reservoir. Give yourself permission to make creative time a priority, to make being a well-rounded person and a curious observer of life a priority, so that you bring back that fresh perspective. If we can do that, we can truly have a summer break where we come back ready to kill it versus a summer breaking point where we wish we didn't have to come back at all. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe to the podcast, rate, like, and review it. Tell a friend who you think could use this information about it as well. It makes such a difference to our community, helps us to be suggested more through the algorithm so that more people who need these resources can find them. And as always, I love hearing your thoughts. I love taking your questions. I'm gearing up to do another community question episode. So please share your thoughts with me. I'd love to hear them and answer your questions. Make sure you don't miss out on your chance to win one of the great prizes just by sharing your insights on this episode and tagging me on Instagram at Architecting Podcast. I'm looking forward to learning what has inspired you and how it's helped you overcome burnout over the summer. Take care, everyone. Love you all so much. Thanks for listening. If you want even more content, head on over to architectingpodcast.com and subscribe to my newsletter and get some great free downloads while you're there. Be sure to follow me on social media. On Instagram at Architecting Podcast, Facebook and LinkedIn pages are Architecting, and the YouTube channel Architecting Podcast. Stay inspired.